Hello, welcome back to the channel. If you are joining us for the first time, please hit that subscribe button so you never miss important updates. And remember to stay tuned until the end to see the sources and verify the news for yourself. Today we are talking about something that has caused a storm in the public space. Lieutenant General Lt-Gen Mkhwanazi, the KwaZulu-Natal Provincial Police Commissioner, made some bold remarks during a recent event. He said that unions are one of the main reasons behind South Africa's high unemployment rate. Those words did not sit well with labor movements, and now unions have hit back strongly, rejecting his claims and calling them unfair and misleading. Let's break this down. At the heart of this debate is a question that has been asked in South Africa for years. Why is unemployment so high, and who is responsible for it? We all know that the country struggles with one of the highest jobless rates in the world. Millions of young people are sitting at home without work, and families are struggling to make ends meet. So when someone in a high position points a finger, it draws attention. General Mkhwanazi argued that wage negotiations and union demands for better pay make it difficult for the government and other employers to hire more workers. He used the example of the police service itself, saying that while the population of South Africa keeps growing, the number of police officers has actually dropped because salaries are too high to allow mass recruitment. In his view, the unions are part of the problem. Unions, however, are not taking this lightly. COSATU, the biggest trade union federation in South Africa, came out swinging. They said Mkhwanazi is scapegoating. According to them, blaming unions for unemployment is not only false but also dangerous, because it divides workers and creates hostility between the state and labor movements. COSATU's representatives argued that unions exist to protect the rights of workers, to fight for fair wages, and to make sure people are not exploited. They reminded the commissioner that he himself benefits from the same labor protections that he now criticizes. Another strong response came from POPCRU, which is the Police and Prisons Civil Rights Union. POPCRU made it clear that they reject the idea that their advocacy for decent salaries is the reason unemployment is so high. They said the real causes of unemployment in South Africa lie elsewhere. Things like corruption, poor governance, a lack of proper industrial policy, collapsing infrastructure, and years of underinvestment in key sectors are what keep millions of people out of work. POPCRU said it is unfair to blame unions for a problem that government has failed to address for decades. FEDUSA, another major labor federation, echoed these views. They said Mkhwanazi's comments are irresponsible and that pointing fingers at unions is just a way of avoiding accountability. According to FEDUSA, South Africa's unemployment crisis has been worsened by austerity budgets, where the government cuts back on spending instead of investing in job creation. They also pointed to collapsing rail systems, unreliable electricity supply, and policy uncertainty as the real enemies of employment. They argued that workers asking for a living wage cannot possibly be the cause of such a deep and long-lasting crisis. The Independent Policing Union of South Africa, known as IPUSA, also weighed in. They said it is misleading to claim that fair pay and decent working conditions are the reason police numbers are declining. For them, the issue is not wages but rather the government's failure to fill vacant posts, rampant corruption, and mismanagement of resources. They reminded everyone that understaffing in the police service has been a problem for years, and it has more to do with budget priorities than with what unions demand. SAFTU, the South African Federation of Trade Unions, did not mince words either. Their General Secretary Zwelinzima Mavovi accused Mkhwanazi of hypocrisy. He pointed out that the commissioner himself earns close to 2 million rand a year while many ordinary officers earn salaries that barely keep up with inflation. According to Vovi, it is absurd to blame unions for the crisis when the state has been cutting budgets, allowing capital to flee the country, and reducing corporate taxes. In his words, austerity and corruption are the true culprits, not wage negotiations. Now, if we step back and look at the bigger picture, this clash is not just about police salaries or unions. It is about how South Africa tackles its economic crisis. The unemployment rate sits at around 32% officially, with youth unemployment even higher. Many economists say the problem is structural. That means it is built into the way the economy is organized. The legacy of apartheid, where millions were deliberately excluded from skills and opportunities, still hangs over us. Add to that the energy crisis, the decline in manufacturing, and the slow pace of land and economic reform, and you see why jobs are so scarce. When government leaders and commissioners like Mkhwanazi blame unions, it is often seen as oversimplifying a very complex issue. Yes, it is true that wage increases sometimes limit how many people can be hired. But focusing only on that ignores the other huge problems, like lack of investment, weak governance, poor planning, and global economic pressures. Experts say if you want to solve unemployment, you need to grow the economy, fix infrastructure, root out corruption, and create industries that can absorb millions of workers. Blaming unions might be politically convenient, but it does not address the real problem. What makes this debate even more sensitive is the role unions have played in South Africa's history. Remember, during apartheid, unions were at the forefront of the struggle for freedom. They mobilized workers, they fought against exploitation, and they were part of the broader liberation movement. Today, they continue to defend workers against unfair practices. So when a public official says they are the cause of unemployment, it feels like a direct attack on their legitimacy. That explains why the backlash has been so strong. Of course, there are South Africans who sympathize with Mkhwanazi's view. Some argue that unions have sometimes been too rigid, resisting reforms that could make businesses more competitive. There are also complaints that strikes can harm the economy and disrupt services. But even those criticisms do not fully support the idea that unions are the main cause of unemployment. Instead, they highlight the need for better negotiation and balance between protecting workers and ensuring economic growth. So where does this leave us? On one side, you have a senior police commissioner frustrated by budget limits and low staffing levels. On the other side, you have unions defending their role and pointing to deeper systemic problems. The truth probably lies somewhere in between, but what is clear is that unemployment will not be solved by finger-pointing. It requires genuine commitment from government, business, labor, and communities to work together. Without that, we will keep going in circles while millions of South Africans remain jobless. Remember, all images used in this video are for illustration purposes only. The news sources for this video include Sowetan Live, The Mercury, The Star, Central News, and News 24.